Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride.
So Bruce, tell us about our newest sponsor.
Glad to, Tracy. Tired of getting crushed by chargebacks each time your brand sells product? From dealing with hundreds of forms that all look different to fighting tooth and nail to get repays, managing deductions is tough work. And you're almost certainly leaving money on the table. Fortunately, there's a solution. Floret was built to help brands like yours. With Floret's software platform, you can automate your deductions workflow, get insight into your trade spend, and even have your deductions disputed for you. Whether you're a scrappy young brand trying to break into retail or an established supplier looking to get sharper on trade, Floret will put money back in your pocket. We've saved brands hundreds of thousands of dollars this year alone. Visit www.tryfloret.com to book a demo and learn more. That's www.tryfloret.com.
Again, we encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes or Spotify channel at Road, 2 Retail.
Today's Road to Retail episode is powered by Market Performance Group, MPG, a leading omnichannel commerce agency delivering integrated commercial solutions that accelerate profitable growth. MPG's new growth initiative helps brands of any size win in every channel, whether launching DTC, scaling on Amazon, or entering brick and mortar. Its team, veterans from top retailers, CPGs, and digital platforms, connects brands with consumers across the full funnel, delivering right-size strategies, strategic go-to-market plans, advanced analytics, and deep retailer relationships for exceptional business results. Check them out at marketperformancegroup.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Road to Retail podcast. Tracy Priest, how are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic today. Bruce, great to see you. Excited about our episode today. So tell us who our guest is.
Today, we're very fortunate to be joined by Chris Stanton, who is founder of Retail Brand Discovery. Chris, welcome to the show, and thank you for your time today.
Hey, thanks, Bruce, and hello again, Tracy.
Good to see you.
All right.
It's been a while since I've seen your face, but man, we've passed each other at trade shows many times.
Yes, for sure.
Your luck just ran out, Chris, if you got to spend some time with us here today. So, Chris, before we jump into the meat of our discussion, why don't you just give the audience a little bit of your background, what you've done over the course of your distinguished career, and how you've landed in the seat you're in right now?
Yeah, thanks for that, Bruce. I'll keep this as short as possible because it goes way, way back. I got into magazine advertising sales out of college, and I was on the consumer side for a while. I worked selling ad space for Harvard Business Review and Men's Health magazine before I transitioned over to the trade side. I joined Ratcho Press in 1989. And I saw there was an opportunity to jump on board nowadays with where trade media is going. I define trade media as developing and connecting brands with suppliers. And so I started retail brand discovery last year. This month is now 1 year since I've been doing this. And so I'm really excited about it. It's surpassed my expectations with the cooperation of people like you, the suppliers, and in particular, the food, drug, and mass retailers.
That's awesome. I
Well,
love that.
that's great, Chris. And you've been connecting people for a long time. So if anyone knows how to do it, it's you. Tracy?
Yep, and congratulations on your 1 year anniversary. That's awesome. So talk to our audience, our audience is small, emerging, and challenger brands. So talk to us a little bit about the services that retail brand discovery, offers and just what it's all about.
Sure. We basically are built on four platforms, all of them serving the supplier, but connecting and informing the retailer. So these four platforms, I call it a discovery platform, and it's made up of primarily Retail Brand Discovery, the magazine, or RBD. And RBD is designed to connect brands, be it big ones, small ones, or whatever, with the retailers. And it's important to note that we're not a newspaper or a real print magazine. We're designed to let the retailer go in there, discover what's new, discover what's innovative, and how to get in touch with the retailers. We're an immediate connect. You could click on any of our editorial, any of our advertising, and go directly to anything that the supplier wants to. The second platform we have is a sampling program. It's a curated program that I do on a very cautious basis. I only do several a year, and it's designed to introduce brands to retailers in a very touchy way. The box arrives, it's familiar, it's been around for over 10 years, so they know what to expect. They just don't know what's inside of it. And so those are based typically on themes. The third platform I have is Retail Brand Discovery, the podcast. And you can find that on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And the idea behind this, it's kind of morphed, but the original idea was to introduce small companies to retailers with the caveat that these retailers or these suppliers had to have distribution. It was not a Shark Tank thing at all. We introduced these brands and talked to them about the inspiration for making them. We get away from turns and SKUs and stats and so on to talk about the founder. And then the fourth one is kind of in its infancy stages, but I do custom publishing as well. And I just did something with ECRM where we created a publication to speak to their audience. So those are the four platforms.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I especially liked the fact that you're not about, Shark Tank. These have to be like real brands. So when you send them into retailers and with your history, they know that it's legit. So Chris, you've talked about, your career and starting back at Harvard Business Review and then all the trade work you've done. Tell us how the industry of kind of trade relations, trade publications has evolved, and where did all the people go that used to do this?
Yeah, I mean, we can go back 30 plus years and we can name names that we probably all will know. I don't know how interesting that is to other people. But where they mostly went was, let's explain the role of a traditional trade relations guy. Back at the time, it was a guy. Now it's, if there's any left, it's a mixture of men and women. But back in the day, these were people that were designed to foster the relationship between the retailer and the supplier. The salespeople can call on the buyers at these retailers, but how does a buyer effectively get to a vice president or a president or even a CEO at a retailer? Back in the day, that's what the trade relations person did. So I've seen that evolve over time, but it's really gone to a minimum. There's people that really don't do it much anymore. My friends over at Kimberly-Clark have somebody. My friends at Hallmark and Gallo, they do. But for the most part, it's been kind of minimized. So I miss it. I think it's really, really important because it adds levels and layers to the retail connection.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've worked at places that had these individuals, and in one case, even an entire department. And I think if the executive leadership were not believers, they just thought it was like a waste of money taking people golfing and buying dinners,
Right.
but worked correctly, it just accelerated problem solving and getting kind of to the top of the house with opportunities.
Yeah. All too often nowadays, if a salesperson calls on a buyer at a chain, if that relationship doesn't go well, if you don't get the answer that you're trying to get, you have nowhere else to go. But back in
Yeah.
the day, put the trade relations guy on it, and he or she might go play golf with them, but bring up business conversations. I've seen it happen. Annual meeting was a really good example. The NACDS annual meeting. It's a great example of where trade relations really played a pivotal role.
Hmm.
And so I'd like to see it come back. I highly doubt that it will, but that's kind of what retail brand discovery does, is we get in front of these different levels of retailers and bring up the conversations. So we can put your product in front of a retailer or a buyer in one of our three platforms, but we're also going above the buyer and getting to retailers that they might not otherwise have a relationship with. And the hope would be maybe the vice president of merchandising didn't know about, your brand, and we might prompt them to reach down to the buyer and say, "Hey, what are we doing with this company?" And that might initiate a call.
Very true. Tracy?
Yeah. So not too long ago, brands used trade media. So tell us a little bit about that and why it's important, why it was important, to a lot of brands.
It's a good question, Tracy. And I spent 35 years telling people trade advertising works. Um, there's an old saying that goes back to a department store executive that said, "I know that 50% of my advertising works. The problem is I just don't know which 50% it is." And that's kind of true. So you shouldn't go into the situation in any trade media investment expecting to get 100% ROI. There's going to be a lot of quietness happening. You're not going to hear about it, but they are seeing this information. Retail brand discovery is emailed directly to the retailers, and I mean at every level, from president down to store level. So does that prompt a phone call? Sometimes. But does it also get in between your sales calls? Does it also get in between your trade show attendance? Does it also remind and follow up when the retailer does have time to sit down and read the publication? So trade advertising does work, and I've heard stories anecdotally. I had a gentleman that was presenting to a chain that we might all remember, Rite Aid. He was presenting to the Rite Aid buyer a product that he was attempting to get into the chain. And while he was doing that, that buyer's boss walked by and held up the ad and said, "Hey, what are we doing with these guys?" And it was literally the person sitting there.
Wow.
So that's really the only way you can measure an ROI, because once that happened, he was sold. But trade advertising is just one part of it. Maybe it's the fourth leg of the table.
So Chris, digging in on Tracy's question there a little bit deeper, as we roll out of 2025 into 2026, is there still a place for, B2B trade communication? And how should retail buyers and the suppliers be thinking of this, let's just call it a tool in today's environment?
Yeah. I'm focused on retailers, communicating to retailers, providing a service to retailers, putting products into the hands of retailers, introducing people and products to retailers. That's where I look straight ahead. And on either side of me, it's about engaging these suppliers to say, "Hey, here's something that can help you get in front of the retailers," because that's really what's critically important. Smaller brands don't always necessarily know that. So, as an example, in any issue of retail brand discovery, you can click on any ad or any profile in there, and it'll take you directly to that supplier's website. One company even put a product demonstration into the ad. So when you clicked on the ad, it took you to a product demonstration of how well the product worked against the competition. So it's really not so much a magazine. I don't even like to really use the word magazine. So that's why I say it's a digital magazine. 100% of our publication is digitally produced and sent out, except at trade shows. But it's so cool that you could put an ad in the paper and connect to the retailer right away. I see all too often, even in the consumer world, but in trade specifically, people run ads and they don't even put any kind of contact information in there. They just put the product and hope for the best. And
Yep.
what you're going to get is the worst, right? So this digital platform is really what resonates with the younger, faster moving and digitally savvy retailer.
Well, so one quick thing there, Chris, that I would defer to a guy with your background, but I really don't even care what the tool is. But I can tell you from sales and marketing teams that I've led, I think that communication, let's call it trade communication directly to the buyers, has been extremely helpful to my background in two specific areas: introducing a new product, or when you buy, we sold brands, but buying them so you can immediately put something out to let people know there's a new sheriff in town, or here's a new brand that we're launching, because it takes time to get all of these retailers on the phone or get into their office or get a Zoom meeting scheduled. And I found this was a way to get it out there. What's the impact? The impact is based upon the tenaciousness, if that's a word it is now, of your follow-up.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But that's a way I've always thought trade communication could be very effectively used, as well as kind of dangling a carrot before a key trade show when you're trying to get appointments, especially as a smaller firm, right? P&G, Colgate, Coca-Cola, they get all the meetings they want. What about the Chris and Tracy company that has two brands? Got to be creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is when you're trying to get to them, the trade advertising can work really well, right? Because everyone's preparing for this meeting. And so if you were running in Retail Brand Discovery, the magazine, for example, you could even put a link in there that would say, click to connect and schedule an appointment. So you are building a little momentum going forward. Same thing with the sampling box that we do. We'll send out a sample box on a very curated, it's a very, very small audience of suppliers that I invite into the box, usually no more than 5. But it's a great way to introduce those 5 products before a trade show. So once they get there, some of the groundwork has been laid out.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So since COVID, Chris, things have changed on how we salespeople and brands meet with retailers. So, now there's Zoom like we are on today, and Google Meets and Teams and all that. So talk to our audience a little bit about the role of that and how you think it's all going to shake out in the end. Do you think we'll ever go back to, I know sometimes now you can get in-person meetings, but they're not as obviously normal as they used to be before COVID. So talk to our audience a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that COVID was one of the worst things to happen to our industry in one respect, the old school way. And it was also the impetus for the way things are working now. Sales calls are difficult. It's hard to get in front of a retailer. What I learned with Retail Brand Discovery is that today's retailers, Walgreens, some of the Walgreens executives I spoke to, they work 3 days out, 2 days in. Now, granted, there are situations where they might be in all 5 days a week, but having them out of the office makes things difficult for them to spend time meeting with suppliers. So I think ECRM, I think we both know that. For those who don't know what ECRM is, it's a speed dating type format where they take over a hotel and suppliers get a room and retailers come in every 20 minutes. They've done wonderful things for getting retailers and suppliers together.
Yep.
NACDS, the National Association of Chain Drugstores, as three key shows that gets people together. Consumer Healthcare Products Association, CHPA in Washington, D.C., they do a great job of getting people together. And I mention those because beyond that, it's really difficult to see how are these people all getting together and communicating to bring up an idea to solve an issue. And so it's difficult to do. What we're doing right here is probably the best way beyond that. But I think COVID's been tough.
Yeah, I think so too. So kind of a follow-up question to that, talk about trade shows. So we've got, Expo is just huge. You've got Fancy Food Show. Those are some of the big ones. So what role do you think those play? Do you think those are ways to meet buyers?
Yeah, I draw conclusions. I can speak specifically to Expo West, which is the Natural Products Association, I think it's called. It's overwhelming. They've got maybe 75,000 people attending that show. And it could be anybody from, Nature Made Vitamins, Pharmavite, with a large booth, down to, a woman who discovered a new skincare remedy that's all natural products that she made in her kitchen. Yeah. And those types of companies are there. I spoke to a retailer from Albertsons asking how they used the show, and Albertsons told me they sent 75 people to that event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would expect the same for Walmart and for Walgreens and CVS as well. But what I've noticed is that this becomes kind of a showcase where smaller brands with some established distribution are hoping to get acquired by Unilever or Procter & Gamble or something like that too.
Right.
And then in the middle of all that are guys like me who is walking the trade show and hoping to get these smaller brands to engage with my platform. And so a lot of the exhibitors get frustrated with the types of things that go on in the show that is so big.
Yeah. It's just huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very large. So Chris, maybe a good thing to come out of COVID is this kind of surge of emerging brands. So what have you noticed about these brands, often led by founders, that have really put themselves out there as the face of their firm? What, in all your years, what are you noticing? Are you kind of like, what the hell? Or are you like, man, that's really smart?
Yeah, it's there's this new wave of, I think it was one of you two that coined it, this celebrity entrepreneur that seems to be better at promoting, or equally as well promoting themselves as the brand themselves. And it's true. There is a lot of that going on. LinkedIn is a place where you can have a platform. I think one of the best guys to do that precedes anything he comes out with is Craig Dubitsky.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know Craig, he was with one of the influencers, if not starters, of EOS. He went on to do Hello Toothpaste and some level of involvement with Method Products. And he's now launched a coffee line with Robert Downey Jr. And he's one of those guys, right? The same thing with Eric Ryan at Method. Whatever they tend to bring to market, the retailers are going to stop and listen to what they do, because they actually do drive what the consumer's buying. Yeah. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my friend Brooks Powell, the founder of Cheers. And Cheers, that's that after alcohol supplement that you take.
Yeah.
Does a great job of explaining it. He literally created a category on, what's the word, after alcohol or prior to alcohol, or some kind of rehydration, if you will. And he explains it better than anyone that's ever attempted to come into that category. Now he's got the whole category.
Yeah. Well, Brooks is an alumnus of the show and has already committed to be a returning champion in the first part of next year. But you're exactly right. I mean, you talk about a tenacious fellow, that's him.
Right.
Absolutely.
And brands like that succeed because of those people.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shortcoming of people that tried to come up with, and I'm being a layman here, but there's no shortage of people that have come up with alcohol treatment products that get you over your hangover and drink Gatorade and so on and so forth. Brooks solved that or eliminated the debate and explained what is going on with your body when you're doing it. and thereby engaging everybody, not just saying, drink this and you'll feel better. So yeah, he's great.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
love Brooks.
So for the listeners out there, dig through our back episodes on the Road to Retail website, and you'll find our discussion with Brooks Powell.
Absolutely. So, Chris, talk to us a little bit about where these brands, these emerging brands are coming from and how they're being discovered.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, right? I mean, if I could ask you the same question, Tracy, right? And we would all say it's coming from social media, e-commerce.
Yeah.
It's a great place to try the product. It's a great place to launch it. It's a great place to start building up some sales. And for the retailer, it eliminates a lot of risk because they can see what volume is going through Amazon or Walmart.com. So that's where a lot of it's coming from. I would say that even if they didn't intend to go e-com and had sights set on going into Target, Target would say you should start on e-com first.
Sure.
So the inspiration, and I think the shortcoming of these smaller brands is that, and rightfully so, they fall in love with their brand and forget about the business aspect of the brand. They assume that everybody's going to like the way that this thing tastes, but they need to understand the business of trade of retail and trade media, because we can tell the story to the retailer, and
Right.
we can involve them and invite them and sample them to the retailer, because it doesn't sell itself no matter how important that brand is to that
That's
person.
so true. We have a bumper sticker at Road to Retail. It says, "My baby's beautiful." Right. So I birthed it, and my mom loves it, and my brother loves it, and my cousin loves it. So, and they think it tastes great. So everybody else should too.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I go to a lot of startup incubators in Austin, Texas, and modesty aside, I would think that I might be a great resource to these people. I mean, if nothing else, I know where Walmart's based and I know where Myra's based. I know if you should try this or if you should try that, but they don't want to hear that. They just want to share their stories with one another.
Right.
And I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean that as an invitation, if not me, to certainly you two, that these brands should reach out and learn what we've seen ahead of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the story of an emerging brand is important, but I hate using the phrase journey, but we're going to use it here. Their story's only part of the journey. It's like leaving your house and going to the airport. There's a lot more stuff to do before you get where you're going.
Right.
So Chris, on the flip side of Tracy's topic right there, do you see any dangers that this type of discovery of emerging brands could lead to? I mean, you touched on a little bit that people may fall in love either by accident or overtly to promoting themselves versus their product. Do you see anything else that could be a danger?
I don't. It costs a lot of money to do this, right? I know a guy that said you need $500,000 in 2 years to get your brand into a retailer, and that's, in some cases that's probably true. Some people, they get struck by lightning, and it's less than that. But I can say in all my years, the companies that engaged with me and what other organization I was with, the companies that engaged with me and followed my advice to join a trade show, attend a show, sample a product, run some trade ads. That's going to help them immensely, because when you're in the room with these retailers at a trade show, having cocktails or at any event out there, you're different than the thousands of other startups trying to get in there as well. And so I've always said there's hundreds of companies and thousands of brands trying to get onto the shelf. That would be the first question I'd ask a startup. What are you doing to be any different than those people?
Differentiation.
And it's trade engagement. It's trade engagement all day long, that you need to be there. And it's, how it's materialized in our industry today. There's another company out there called Boom Boom. I don't know if you know them, but they're that
John Pinto.
John Pinto, he's another past guest who's going to come back next year, hopefully.
Yeah, what's his name? Joe Pinto?
John Pinto.
John Pinto. Yeah, I've met John and I sing his praises. I've got his product. And when John Pinto and Craig Dubitsky over at Happy Coffee and Brooks Powell get together, that's what they're doing. That's exactly what I'm saying is you've got to make yourself somebody in the industry. And those three gentlemen get together and do that. So I think being in front of retailers, back in the day, I can think of, I don't even know if I should mention company names, but I remember brands that were paying for advertising with their credit cards solely for the purpose of getting an ad and getting invited to an event. Because then you're in the room with Procter & Gamble, you're in the room with Unilever, and you're in the room with the highest levels of retailers. So that little network, that little group of people, it's really important.
Yeah,
Might be Craig Dubitsky. That might be Craig Dubitsky calling me. I don't know.
So, Chris, you've seen a lot of small emerging brands. You probably could tell our audience lots of stories, but tell us maybe a couple things that you've seen these brands do right and wrong, and then how much of their approach is influenced by retail buyers.
I'm not so sure about the second part of that, how much it's influenced by, but I like to bring up a company by the name of Oil Logic. They make baby care products, natural, as natural as it can be. And it started by three people in the industry, Worthan, Harrell, Jordan, and Jeff, who were all in the retail space before. They all knew, they were all VPs at respective companies before they got started with Oil Logic. So they had the runway of having been in the industry for years when they launched this brand. So a lot of what happens in their celebrity thing was that they were already there. They didn't have to kind of create a persona.
Right.
And so what they would do is take their expertise, take their branding and their packaging and their media and all that, and then follow the advice of the retailers. What does Target want us to do? Because again, and I think I'm digressing here, Tracy, but it's an overused phrase lately, and I see it almost daily on LinkedIn, and that is getting on the shelf is no measure of success. It's getting the product off the shelf. And too often these smaller companies, they're celebrating that, right? They're celebrating, hey, we're finally getting into Whole Foods. But it's really getting off the shelf to Whole Foods. And so I mentioned Oil Logic because they're one of those companies that knew getting it in is going to be kind of sort of easy if our story's right. It's getting it off the shelf.
Yeah, we say another bumper sticker we have is it's not about sell in, it's about sell through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna open up a Shopify store with all of our bumper stickers and t-shirts. But Chris, what you just said was very interesting. We had a retailer on the show, and he said an emerging brand, they decided to accept them and give them like 400 store tests. And he said, I know that's a big deal for these guys. He said they were literally so excited. They were high-fiving in the meeting, and I had to throw cold water on it and say, no. The work starts now.
Right.
Yes.
So it's just, man. Hey, so Chris, you touched on this a little bit, but as we roll into 2026, what tips would you give these small emerging and challenger brands to think about in the terms of what retail focused media can still do for them today, right? Reminiscing about when we were all starting is one thing, but it still does have a role because you have to get discovered and not everyone is, super charismatic. So what are those couple of points you might say, hey, if you're really trying to get noticed, here's a few things to consider, whether they're do this or whatever you do, don't do that.
Yeah. For one, the retailers can come across as very intimidating. Sometimes it feels like an all or nothing proposition with them. And if I don't strike up the right conversation with him or her, then I'm gonna lose it. And the first piece of advice I would say is that these people are really, really, I would say most of these retailers are really, really there to help you. They want to know, they don't want to be the last one in to find out that your product is fantastic, right? They want to be part of it. So I would reach out to these retailers and say, what is it that's missing in your stores? What do your consumers, what are they looking for? Is there a problem that I can help solve with my product?
Right.
As opposed to saying, hey, I made this in the kitchen and my neighbors love it. Like you said, Tracy, it's not about you at this point. Now it's about them and their problems and how you're going to solve them. So that's the first piece of advice I would give to them. I would build presence. I would build a presence. I like to think of retail brand discovery. I know I keep plugging my thing here, but I like to think of retail brand discovery as the retailer, the trade media's version of TikTok or Instagram, in that you go in there, you see the product, you get informed on it, you see where it's going, and then you can click to connect right away. Because frankly, and this is a point to these startups, a lot of the things that retailers are discovering today are on TikTok. They see 1 million tubes of this sold, they're going to call that guy to come on in.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I think you need to have a presence beyond just you hoping that you're going to get a sales call with them, because it's not about that, like you both said. So I think if you engage trade support to tell your story, you come across more credible. The retailers are looking in retail brand discovery. They're going through our boxes to see what's there. In essence, I'm kind of leading in brands that I believe in to go into the retailer. So that's what I would do. I would engage as high as, without disrespecting the buyer. I try to get connected with every level of the buyer media.
Right.
So
That's great. One thing you said that stood out, Chris, hope is not a strategy.
right.
I think that's a book, actually. So we're rounding third and heading home. So tell our audience who's had the biggest influence on your career and why.
You should have asked me that before. Now I have to think.
You don't have to name, you don't have to name names.
No, there's been a couple, but the earliest one, the earliest person that influenced me and my behavior in business was a woman that I worked with in Chicago years and years ago. And she taught me that expression, it's not about you, it's about them. And think about what it is. And she was extremely tough. Everything had to be buttoned up. You had to be on time. You didn't ask personal questions unless they came up. So I just learned the tough aspect of business from her. If I fast forward, 35 years later, somebody that's been inspiring to me just personally because of his business acumen, his fairness, and his willingness to engage is somebody like Mike Wysong from Care Pharmacies.
Yep.
He's a tremendous gentleman. He reaches out. Some of the people over at Walmart, I'll reserve names on those people because they probably don't want me to mention their names, but there's been tremendous people over there, VPs of merchandising, beauty executives over there, beauty executives at Walgreens. I was as close you could get with Tom Ryan when he was CEO of CVS. He was always very nice to me. He understood what I was trying to do and always made sure that whatever influence he could have on me, it worked. It made me feel better, and people saw that I could connect with these people, and that's kind of where I went with that. I've had a good fortune of one of the things I've done in the past is attend events where we would host panels where we would bring retailers and suppliers together. And I'd like to do more of that. I think getting a room full of 4 or 5 nascent brands, up and comers, along with a couple of retail experts, I think that would go a long, long way that we could do something like this. But again, I think if I'm wrapping this up and not going on here, I think that the suppliers have to understand that it's about the retailer and their consumer, and fairness and being prepared.
Yep. Great advice. Great advice.
Well, we talk all the time about being prepared and following up. And we also caution all the brands that we speak with, Chris. We say, look, we know that this meeting with the retailer is super important to you, and that's great. But you have to remember, it's meeting number 7 today for them. So don't bore them. Get to the point. How are you different? How can you help them make more money? Figure out what, to your point of your first boss, what's in it for them. It's not about you, because if you can't figure out what they need and how you can help, it's over. You'll have a nice cup of coffee for exactly 29 minutes, and then it's over.
And that again, that goes to the retailer. I think by and large, these retailers are extremely fair. I would hate to be in a position where you have to say no 100 times a day, and they do it
Yeah.
gracefully. So I really respect the role of a buyer and how difficult that job is, especially when they're dealing with the unprepared people. But I was reading this study from McKinsey and Company, and they're saying that today's buyer is largely data driven and analytical. And what's missing is the personal approach to it. And so these buyers that do a really good job, that believe in a John Pinto or a Brooks Powell, those are people that look at the analytics, but they also understand the story behind it. They say that the folks over at McKinsey and Company say that there's no gut to what they're doing. They need to have a little bit more of a gut, a little bit more of an intuition. Sorry about that.
No, you're exactly right. Because most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, the data is a scoreboard of what's already happened. It doesn't really see around the corner of what's coming. So
Great
that's
point.
interesting. Okay, Chris, last question, incredibly important. Who is your favorite sports team, band, or brand? Realize you probably can't go the brand route because you touch a lot of them. And why do you support them?
How do you get brand and team in the same subject?
Well,
That's just fun.
some people like Jerry Jones think that his team is a brand instead of winning football games. Oh, shoot, did I say that on
Oh,
the
I
show?
can't believe that.
Sorry about that. Making
I'm not,
fun of the
I'm not a
Cowboys
huge
is always fun.
I'm not a huge sports fan, but I am a big sports fan. I've got a son at Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, and one at Miami University in Ohio. So I follow those two teams. I grew up a mile or two from Wrigley Field, so I'm a lifelong Cub fan. So
Love that.
Nothing better than an afternoon at Murphy's Bleachers, and then if you can, make it across the street and go see the game.
yeah, I've been to plenty of those. And then my favorite brand team would be any brand team that believes in the power of trade media because it's critically important to it. Although I'm biased about it, if you stop and think, or if you get anything out of this meeting today, I hope some of these brands, big and small, will understand that we are that fourth leg of a table. The other three legs, just in case you're wondering, are trade shows, in-person sales calls, and social media. But if you don't have that fourth leg, that's a very efficient and inexpensive media. It's a great way to expand your brand.
Great
Well,
advice.
great counsel. So, Chris, thank you for your time today. Why don't you, how can people reach out and get in touch with you and learn more about retail brand discovery, what you're doing, and how you might be able to help their brands find their way?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I apologize about the ominous movement of the sun here. It's kind of crossing over
Right.
my office, so it's gotten a little bit dark. And apologize about the phone calls as well. I think that's the first mistake a lot of goofballs like me on social media forget to turn their phones off. But you can get in touch with me at Chris at retailbranddiscovery.org, Chris at retailbranddiscovery.org. You can go to Retail Brand Discovery, the podcast on YouTube. You can call me 312-961-6180, or just however, reach out to me any way I can. Contact Bruce and Tracy.
There you go.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you once again. All right, Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, this has been great. Great advice, wise counsel for our small emerging brand audience today. So thank you very much for joining us today. Audience, thanks for joining us. Please continue to follow us.
Don't go anywhere, Tracy. I know you're gonna do this, but it goes without saying, but it's important to note that you two guys are a critical part of this industry. I've watched your podcast before, never imagined I'd be on one, so I appreciate it. But your pedigree is really important. It validates what it is that you're doing. You guys know what you're doing on the CPG side, and now you're doing great things helping brands get into stores. So thanks to you two experts.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for the endorsement. So audience, continue to follow us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Spotify, and Apple. Those links are in our podcast notes. So when you listen to the podcast, check out those. And thank you again for joining us. Also, we have a website, www.road2retail.com, and you can see all of our episodes there as well. So Chris, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, you guys
Good luck out there, folks.
Thanks, everybody.